The Oklahoma Sooners are not done in the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports. We're going to talk some new homes for some Oklahoma Sooners through the transfer portal, grading Oklahoma's spring through the portal, what they've done on the field. But first, we're going to talk, hey, is Oklahoma done in the transfer portal? I don't seem to think so, Jay. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody out there. What do you think's next for Oklahoma in the portal?
Yeah, and I hope you all had a great 4th. May the 4th be with you. We didn't get to really celebrate that on the show, unfortunately, because today's the 5th, and that's when Monday hit. Sunday was the 4th. But besides that and enjoying Star Wars Day, I don't think the Sooners are done in the portal. Now, I want y'all to hear me this, Sooner fans. A lot of you don't realize this, that yes, the transfer portal is technically closed now. You may see entries from like graduate transfers, or if a coach gets fired, or just the delay of someone filing the paperwork. Believe me, schools be taking longer than the 48 hours and they're supposed to. So it does happen. But besides that, there are players still in the portal, and there's potential for Oklahoma to go shopping. And I think Oklahoma still will probably entertain some conversations around cornerback as well as tight end. We got a kicker, got a wide receiver for more so insurance and potential explosion opportunities. I do expect Oklahoma to shop for a quarterback. I bet you there are a few quarterbacks in the portal that we will be tied to. I think George Storia had put out there that Oklahoma is looking to host a quarterback very soon. When I find out the details of who, we'll definitely talk about it on here, because it's going to be important. Losing Cole Gonzalez so late in the portal cycle, it's going to be kind of a blow. So I expect that to be next. So if there's anything I'm going to say, I'll rank it this way, John. I'd say quarterback will be number 1 on the list. We're probably going to find some backup quarterback. I'd say cornerback is probably 2, and unfortunately tight end would be number 3. What do you think?
Yeah, I would like for them to go grab a corner. I'm looking at the cornerback availability in the transfer portal, and there's not a lot there right now. And so it would make sense to go do that, except I don't know if there's going to be a player that makes sense for this team. You know what I mean? Like, going to get one just to get one, to me, doesn't make sense. Going to just add another guy, don't necessarily love that. But if there's somebody that they can identify that, hey, you're looking at a FCS kind of a guy. I know that is cursed thinking, that Oklahoma fans don't want to think that way. They're looking for a guy. They want a guy out of the power forward that started a bunch of games. That guy's not available. There's just none of those guys available. So if you're looking to add somebody, that's where you're going to have to go. But that can be a successful way to go. The JUCO route, that could be a successful way to go. Remember, Kendall Dolby came out of the JUCO ranks, and he's become one of Oklahoma's most dynamic defensive players over the last couple of years. He's going to be back from injury. So corner, I just don't know if there's going to be a match between availability and Oklahoma's need. Tight end, again, I think if you can find that guy that is a legit difference maker, please go do it. But again, I don't know if there's going to be availability that matches what Oklahoma needs. They've got some intriguing pieces on the depth chart. A Trine Washington at tight end. I like the veterans that they've got. Your floor for a guy like Will Huggins is solid. For John Locke and for Carson Kent, that's solid. Jaren Kanak, you have a solid floor. You're going to be able to get enough out of those guys. Will you have a Mark Andrews breakout, Braden Willis breakout? Maybe not. But if you can have reliable, steady tight end play, that's going to be more than enough. So I would like them to continue to pursue guys, but given the potential roster limitations that we might see in the house settlement, I don't know if they're going to just go get a guy just to get a guy.
And that's the interesting one, is that it's not going to just get, like you said, a guy. they need someone that, I say at corner, we need a veteran. It's got to be someone with the starts, as you mentioned. It's got to be someone that's got some, that's not green. They have to have something to show that, they've been able to produce. And like I said, there's not very many of them out there. Now, I think there was a couple of players I looked at over the last few days that I felt like could be a possibility, but we could, that's where our corner is still number 2 on the list, with tight end being at the bottom, because I don't think we're going to find another tight end. Just like you said, Trinae Washington is the one that I'm looking at and paying attention the most. This is an opportunity for the true freshman to go out there and seize a lot of game time. I haven't seen or heard anything about Helms or McIntyre, literally, at all. It's kind of weird, John. What is going on with our young tight ends that we've had for years? Is it about time to say that there's a potential chance for a medical retirement or something like that? Because we really have not heard anything about those two.
Yeah, it's wild, and maybe no news is good news.
Possibly.
That's the only thing I can take from that. And maybe even at cornerback, no news is good news, meaning they feel good about where Gentry Williams is at. They feel good about where Eli is at, where Kendall Dolby is at. Because if all things are considered and you can move Kendall Dolby maybe to the outside and let him play corner versus Cheetah, potentially you feel pretty good about that because he's a good cover player. At the same time, you lose something at Cheetah. Now you have Kendall Daniels. You'll have Reggie Powers III that you can rely on at Cheetah. Samuel Omasigo, you can. We know Taylor Heim has been standing out in spring ball at Cheetah as well. So you have some options there. So if you got to move Kendall, then I think you feel okay with what you could do at Cheetah. But Kendall Dolby is a dynamic player there at tight end, man. I don't know. I think, again, some of it is being shuffled down the depth chart due to the additions of Huggins, Locke, and Kent. And again, maybe no news is good news. I don't know that that's the case, but at some point, you got to hope that these guys are able to get right and get on the field. They didn't portal out. They weren't processed. So the team still values them. They still value them enough to give them a roster spot. It's just, at what point will we see a breakout? I mean, Caden Helms was a part of the 2022 recruiting class. That was forever ago.
Oh my goodness.
You're starting to see okay, 2022 guys, your Kip Lewis's, he's going to be NFL draft next year. R. Mason Thomas, NFL draft next year. Robert Spears Jennings, all these guys are going to the NFL draft next year. And we have yet to see a guy like Caden Helms do a whole lot. And hopefully the injury thing can get right for him. He can get some injury luck on his side, because some of it is just unlucky. Some of it is injured guys stay injured, unfortunately. But at some point, hopefully he gets on the field, because the length, the size, it's all there for him. The athleticism, it's all there for him to be a guy that can be a difference maker. It's just got to be healthy. You can't develop if you're not healthy. You can't. That is critical. Better if you're not healthy. So
the best ability is availability, and we're seeing that like crazy in just about every position. And I think that our availability is going to be a lot higher this year, which is probably why so many people are high on that. And we'll talk about that probably close to the end of the month and trying to understand all this hopium that's being pumped out by all of these other outlets. I'm a little disturbed by it.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that another day. But it does make sense for us to continue to explore those three positions in the portal as we, just to try to evaluate additional positions and what we truly need. Luckily at corner, well, actually, I do like your idea around the JUCO route, especially at quarterback. That would make a lot more sense to find a JUCO quarterback that can be groomed and potentially just around for one more year. I mean, we'll have a quarterback come in this coming class that could, replace that spot. You'll have potentially Mateer coming back or just Michael Hawkins. And then you could have your two young quarterbacks with Jet New and another young one or two quarterbacks to come in this class. So you could kind of go down into the youth movement if you truly want to, but it probably would make sense going after a JUCO quarterback if one exists. That's the other problem is the pickings are very slim. We're now in the pickings era of when Jeff Lebby first got here, and he took Dylan Gabriel like the next day after he got here, got him to not show up to class at UCLA, and ended up getting him in Oklahoma, which was a godsend in its own. But ain't nobody else really in the portal that you expect to start. you could probably bring somebody in to have a good practice body or someone to be a good scout team quarterback, unless Jimmy Green Beans feels like he needs to show up, which I'm waiting to hear the stories of Mateer watching Jimmy Green Beans play and see if he's going to pick up some traits for himself coming this season. But there's not much available, so we'll have to see. I do know the Sooners aren't done, and I expect them to continue to explore, and hopefully we'll have some news for you all in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, they've done a lot so far in the transfer portal, on the football field. What have they done well? Where have they failed? We'll discuss coming up next as we grade Oklahoma spring, coming up on Locked On Sooners.
Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product information to help you get the job done right. Plus, with the complete inventory over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive benefits with a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it is your turn. Join Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Jay, as we look at the Oklahoma Sooners, let's just start through the transfer portal. How would you grade what Oklahoma's done through the portal this spring?
Oh, I say through the spring, it was an A+. The Jaden Ott pickup is probably way more than enough than what you needed for this team. You got interior help, which was a critical spot, and Jake Michla, who I think is going to be a lot more impactful than Sooner fans truly understand, especially being that he's played center and he's played on the interior. Having that versatility coming in day one is not very common. So that means that he'll find a way on the field no matter what. And then I guess the Jermichael Carter pickup at wide receiver, which was a good insurance policy with Giovanni Gibson, still slated to come back here in early August, along with Jaden Gibson, even though we haven't heard much about Gibson outside of the fact that he, did not hit the transfer portal. We're seeing that Oklahoma went out there and found the most important spots and truly capitalized on a kicker. You got yourself a kicker. Mm-hmm. You got a little bit of defensive line depth with a sizey guy in Ricky Lolohea. So to me, I give him an A+ because it was everything that was most important. Now, I know a lot of people would say, well, what about tight end? You needed a tight end. You need a veteran corner. I don't think you truly needed those because of everything you already picked up. Honestly, I don't even think we use the tight end much. I've been saying this over and over, and I hope y'all get this. I don't see us using tight end that much. I would like to see what we have also on roster in that spot and people to be able to do certain things like block and make a catch here or there. But I think the wide receiver room was way more important than the Jermichael Carter pickup. I think elevates them. So I'll give them just a standard A. We won't do plus. Plus would probably be if you added a corner, a starter level corner, or tight end at starting level. So we'll just go A. I think they did everything that they needed to do, and they got it done.
Yeah, I'd say a B+ at this point because you don't have that veteran cornerback addition yet. You've done good things in the portal. The Jaden Ott piece was huge. If you didn't need a corner, then I would think an A+ would be easy because tight end. Yes, it's important. You got to have 11 that you feel comfortable with on the field, a guy that can go out there and make plays. But in the hierarchy of needs for Oklahoma, it was down the list for me because if you consider the money 5 positions in football, quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, offensive tackle, defensive end, it's not on that list. And for a lot of front office people at the NFL level, or at the collegiate level, it's going to be a lower priority relative to some other positions. We know interior offensive line is huge. If you cannot keep your quarterback comfortable in the middle of the pocket, you're going to have a hard time. We know, and they added a good player in Jake Michaela, and a guy that can come in, push for a starting job right away. He's got 2 years of eligibility. I love that. I love that they added Jaden Ott, a dynamic runner who can make them better offensively. I love the Jermichael Carter pickup because, again, 2 years of eligibility. If he doesn't contribute or is not a big-time contributor this year, he can still be a big-time contributor for you in 2026. The Ricky Lolohea piece, again, a guy with multiple years of eligibility. He can continue to develop and grow into a role. So I love that they attacked guys that had multiple years of eligibility. They're not going after one-year rentals because that's kind of had its hits and misses, right? You go after a guy, you expect him to come in and either – and push for a starting job, and he doesn't really do it. And then we're looking at it at the end of the season. When it was like, okay, what was the point of bringing that in? And going back to tight end, I felt this way all off season, that if there wasn't a guy like a Tanner Kohlschul that you're willing to go out there and spend big for to go get, there wasn't a guy to me that was like, you've got to break the bank and make sure that upgrades your tight end position. I would rather you allocate those resources somewhere else and use one of the 3 transfer portal tight ends or all 3 of the transfer portal tight ends that you brought in December and go from there. Because those are guys that Ben Arbuckle saw. He's like, I could use that. I could use that. I could use that guy. They could fit in my offense. We could do something with those guys. Jaron Kanik wants to move to tight end. We could do something with that. Let's figure that out. So you've got enough. Is it great? Are we going to be looking at this at the end of the season and be like, man, that was a Jermaine Gresham type year. He's going to be in the John Mackey, Fred Bolitnikoff, John Mackey award conversation. No, probably not. But are they going to be able to do enough to make this offense go and not be a liability? Because I think that's what I'm looking for, is just a tight end that's not a liability out there.
And that's the hard part, is finding somebody that's not going to be a quote unquote liability. I mean, we technically had one, but Sooner fans kind of ran him off.
Yeah.
All he needed was one more year. And I think that he would have been just fine, especially for this system, because this is going to need, in watching a lot more Washington State tape than I've ever thought I've ever watched, outside of the fact that I watched a ton of it when they had Cam Ward. That, I don't know how much of the tight end is really just going to be used. I mean, last year, Mateer threw the ball to Cooper Mathers. He had 13 catches for 196 yards, and he was your top tight end. But he had 6 touchdowns. So I think that they're used a lot probably in the red zone. It's probably most likely where most of those touchdowns came from. So if anything, be able to catch a pass when you're wide open in the back of the end zone, it's going to be most important. If these players can do that, we should be good. That's probably where I am the most concerned for Oklahoma. And we'll talk about our biggest concerns in another episode, because I think that'll be a really good breakdown of some things to really talk about as we go through, what we're going to look like against our opponents coming up. But I don't think tight end is really that big of a deal. I know that we would like for us to have some star-studded, have another, Mark Andrews, another Braden Willis or something of that nature. And yeah, I want that at some point too. But once we go out there and put together a dynamic offense that's exciting, I think you'll start to see players have way more interest in coming to Oklahoma, especially at that position, because they're going to see, look, they're doing all this with the wide receivers, but they're not throwing the tight ends because they don't have me. You get me there, I'll change it for them.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm thinking and expecting going forward.
You got to recruit that guy. I don't think you're going to want to get that guy out of the transfer portal, because I think out of the transfer portal, you're going to have to spend way more than what you want to.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to have to recruit that guy. Ryder Mix, you're up, dude. Like 2026, you got to come be the answer at tight end. No pressure, though. No pressure at all. We didn't get to talk about what Oklahoma did on the field, so we're going to have to push that maybe to tomorrow's episode, how we feel about what Oklahoma did in spring ball, where we're feeling optimistic, maybe not so optimistic. We'll discuss that coming up on tomorrow's episode. But we had a couple of Oklahoma Sooners find new homes in the transfer portal. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. So if you've got multiple bank accounts or multiple credit cards, you can link them all inside Monarch Money, and you can see it all in one platform that you're not having to go to different apps and log in, log out, remember all your different logins and scroll and figure out, okay, where do we need to allocate our money? You can see it all inside Monarch Money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year over at monarchmoney.com. And thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Over the weekend, Jay, we had a couple Oklahoma Sooners find new homes. Let's start with Gavin Sawchuk, the Oklahoma Sooners running back, visited Tallahassee on Friday, and it did not take time for him to decide that Florida State was where he wanted to be. You're muted.
The beauty of being on mute whenever there's an ad being read. Definitely going to keep that in the show this time. Y'all deserve to see some of the bloopers. But I thought it was a fantastic pickup for Florida State. The one thing that we noticed on that is that, Florida State got to see him live and in person as a true freshman, 15 carries for 105 yards and a touchdown. He looked really good in that Cheez-It Bowl. So when I talked to a buddy of mine, it's a big Florida State guy, and, he was like, that dude sounds familiar. I was like, yeah, remember in the Cheez-It Bowl, we talked about the two running backs that y'all excited about that Oklahoma has? He's like, wait, that was one of, I was like, that's the guy. And so he was losing his mind. He's like, oh, I think that'd be a solid pickup. He, of course, asked what happened. I was like, dealing with injuries the last couple of years. He started the year off his sophomore year, his redshirt freshman year, a little banged up, but finished the year with, 100 yards per game for the last 5 games of the season, 700 something yards rushing. So he was in the trajectory. And then last season he dealt with some nagging injuries to start the year and never really got back to his old self. But having an offseason off, bulking up, getting bigger, I think Gavin's going to be able to give Florida State a nice spark at the running back spot, especially with Castigliano, is that his last name? Whatever. Yeah, I butchered his name. My apologies, my guy. But him out there in the backfield scrambling around and running, I think Sawchuk's going to really be able to add another dynamic, especially because of the way that their OC will definitely run that offense. The way he ran it at UCF, a lot of run, heavy run, and I think Gavin's going to definitely benefit from that.
If the offensive line is looking good, then he'll do well. He needs a little help. I think we've seen good Gavin Sawchuk. What we saw in 2024, some of it him being banged up due to injuries, some of it being the offensive line, some of it being Jackson Arnold not giving him the ball on the read option when it was there to give him the ball. You can go back and listen to Oklahoma Breakdown, our shows, whatever. There were times where there was a disconnect between what was being shown by the defense and what Jackson Arnold was seeing. And the running backs weren't getting the opportunities with huge holes available to them to run the football in the RPO game and the read option game. And those numbers could look a whole lot better if the quarterback reads it right. Yep. So as much as it's easy to kind of dunk on Gavin Sawchuk and say, man, he just didn't live up to expectations, I thought if he was healthy and the offensive line situation's a little bit better at Oklahoma last year, he looks a lot better, as does a lot of the offense. Remember, it took till like midway through the season or late in the season for the offensive line to finally get a run game going. And so I think Gavin Sawchuk's a good pickup for them. Again, needs some help on offense, especially along the offensive line. If they can get him the ball going downhill where it's a one cut and go situation, then I think he's going to be in good shape. The other move that happened over the weekend, Devon Mitchell going to Louisville.
That's pretty big. I saw all the writings and the articles about it, and I mean the big thing was that he's definitely taking a pay cut, as everybody has said and noted numerous times. Not sure why everybody felt the need to note that as many times as I saw, but I digress. I think that's a pretty big pickup for him and for them. Still has a ton of untapped potential. He just needs to be in an environment where he can focus on football and make it happen. He does that, yeah, they should be good to go. I do like what he could potentially do there. Now let's see what the fit is. I'm not sure what the fit. I haven't really dug deep into Louisville's roster, but hopefully he can fight his way to opportunity, at least get some snaps this coming season, and then show us that true top 4-star, late 5-star potential that he had when he came to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, he goes in as a guy with a lot of potential that has to earn a role. Like there are low expectations at this point. If he can go and just stay steady, you be consistent in on the practice field, be consistent in the stuff he has to do off the field, then he'll have a chance to have a career still. It won't happen in Oklahoma, unfortunately, but the fact that he gets to stay in the Power 4, that's a good sign for him that all is not lost. But he's got a lot that he still has to prove, I think, as a player and even as a teammate off the field. He's got to take care of his business off the field. And he's got, again, all the talent in the world. He's got to learn to take care of his business. And a lot of that is the training, the conditioning, the diet, the schoolwork, all of it, the social aspects. I mean, you can't let anything slide. Everything has got to be, on track. You got to stay consistent. And, I think that's the biggest issue there that happened at Oklahoma. Just couldn't be consistent on and off the field, and is what it is. But I think of these two, Gavin's got the chance to make the immediate impact. Devon's still going to be a developmental player for Louisville, but they've put together some good offenses over the last few years and had themselves competitive, and they see him as a weapon that could be used. It's fascinating to see, like, a lot of Oklahoma's departures ended up at Power 4 schools this time around.
Yeah.
Where it was in years past, guys, especially guys out of the Lincoln Riley era that Brent Venables was still working with, those guys dropped down to the group of 5 level. Whereas we're seeing more of these guys, the Brent Venables guys that they've been developing and they've been working with, land at the LSUs, go to Florida State, Louisville. We're seeing a lot of P4 to P4 transfers. I think that says a lot about the depth that Oklahoma's developed over the last few years. Now you just got to have that depth consistent, and it can't just be young developmental depth. Those guys have to start making strides and making impacts on this roster, not somebody else's roster.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need them to make that jump here, not there, more here. In which I think we'll get that now. I think we've hit the point with, BV's first recruiting class was technically 22, and it was the makeshift saving class where we were, recovering players that was lost because of the departure of the coaching staff. So, yeah, we should see that was what, 20? Is that 21, actually? It was 22 class. It was 21. Anyway, the good thing is that we're now at the point where a lot of BV's recruits and the staff's recruits that were a part of that initial staff, they're hitting that point where the draft is coming up. And so their draft eligibility, at least. So I think we'll start to see some players jump up, and we'll be able to really assess the Venables era and kind of what he was able to put together.
Yeah, it's, I was just looking down the list, and maybe one guy right now, or two players that you brought in either through the transfer portal or the recruiting ranks, landed at G5 schools. And that was Emeka Megwa and Sam Franklin. And neither of those guys really made much of an impact for you.
Yeah, checks out. They were just, dealing with injuries too. So yeah, that's a pretty good point.
Yeah. But everybody else landed at Nebraska or Pitt or UCF or LSU, Utah. Like, a lot of guys found
West Virginia,
Power Power 4 opportunities after leaving Oklahoma. So I think that says something about the direction of the program. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner. It's going to be a fun offseason, y'all. We're going to have some good stuff coming down the line. Keep your eyes open and your ears open.